Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Please hit the like and the subscribe button when you come in. This is TPP. I appreciate you guys showing up this morning. Right? Now, you guys see the moniker, you see the phone call, you see two men, two story, or one story, right? Now, look, I've gone back and watched this Brandon Tatum's interviews multiple times. I've listened to the 911 calls, heard the family statements, and matched up those timelines, right, on the Nolan Wells murder investigation. And here's my takeaway. Two men, two adults in this story stopped looking for answers and started running interference to protect these boys. The first one is Officer Brandon Tatum. The second is the grandfather. It's the grandfather. I'm not playing defense for anybody, and I'm not softening the blow for anybody. Tatum stopped acting like a law enforcement officer and started acting like a hired defense attorney. Every single time any inconsistency popped up in his story, in their story, he had a polished excuse ready and willing to go. Every time those boys got caught in a lie, he smoothed it over somehow. And then you have the grandfather, a man who wasn't on the boat and wasn't in the water, yet somehow became the commander, the command center, while an 18-year-old boy was drowning. Every time this story points towards those boys, somebody steps in to redirect the narrative. Every time a red flag goes up about something somebody said, they always turn around and somebody says nothing to see here. So we're pulling both of these men, Officer Tatum and the grandfather, under the microscope. We're exposing Tatum's total misrepresentation of the evidence, and we're dissecting how a grandfather ran cover on dry land while a crisis was unfolding. So we're going to start with Officer Tatum, and we're going to start with the polygraph lie.
Have the friends taken polygraphs?
So from my understanding, all but I believe one took a polygraph, and from what was told to me that they all passed. And all of the ones that took a polygraph took one without a lawyer. And they cooperated with law enforcement. So from my understanding, everybody took a
Why do you say
polygraph
that's
test
from
but
what
one.
you understand? Did they tell you they took a poly and passed?
Yes, ma'am. They told me that they did it. I wasn't there. So that's what I'm saying from my understanding. They told me that all the boys except one, which is Warren, I believe, took a polygraph test. All of them did not have lawyers and did it and cooperated with police. Warren also cooperated with police. I just believe he didn't take a lie detector test, but Warren is the young man that I interviewed. So according to what they told me, they all took a lie detector test and passed. And it's an equivalent of a lie detector test. It's not a traditional lie detector test, but it's the same theology of trying to get to if a person is lying. I don't know the name of it. It's an equivalent of a lie detector test. It's a different methodology. I don't believe it was a polygraph test. I believe they took other stressors in order to analyze if the people were telling the truth or not.
Did they take a polygraph would be no.
No, right there. That's where the mask slipped. Tatum tells millions of his viewers he went over there on his channel and told millions of viewers that they took a lie detector test when they never did no such thing. They ain't took no lie detector test. Why didn't they take a lie detector test instead of this stress thing? They took this stress thing instead of a lie detector test. Why didn't they take a lie detector test? Why would you take a stress thing instead of a lie detector? And most people know it as a lie detector. What they took was not a lie detector test. Why didn't they take a lie detector test? Okay. Right there, Tatum is a liar. The boys passed the polygraph test. That sounds definitive, right? Case closed, right? Except the second Nancy Grace presses his ass on it, he starts backpedaling, shoe shining. Well, it's semantics. It's like the same theology. Theology is related to religion, goofball. It's not nothing related to a polygraph test. No, it isn't semantics or theology or any of that bullshit he was trying to spin. A voice stress analysis, which is what it is not a polygraph. Calling it one is not a slip of the tongue. It's a deliberate attempt to fool an audience that's goofy and will believe you. He wanted people to believe these boys were officially cleared by a polygraph test. That's what he wanted you to believe. And let's talk about the absolute arrogance of stepping into an ongoing open investigation without an ounce of legal authority. Make it make sense, y'all. Brandon Tatum is a former officer. He is not the lead detective on this case. He does not represent the district attorney. He has no official standing to be leaking evidence, getting evidence, gathering evidence, handing out hints, or dropping clues to the public on YouTube. He ain't got no business doing that. He's supposed to be reporting the news, not fucking making the news. That's not your job. Your job is not to make the news. Your job is to report the news. Okay? When you start drip feeding partial details and selective evidence to a public audience while on active investigation, while it's underway, you are not helping solve a case. You are actively compromising the case. Real law enforcement officers know better than to taint potential jury pools or tip off witnesses with selective leaks like you have been doing. Then comes this phone evidence. Hold this.
Officer Tatum, thank you for being with us tonight. Question to you. You interviewed, as we played at the get-go, several of Nolan's friends. Did they show you photos, videos, snaps of that day on Horn Island?
Well, Nancy, thank you so much for having me on. I spoke to 4 of the boys that are originally accused of being involved in Nolan Wells' death. And they did show me a lot of evidence. I want people to be very clear with this. I spent my career putting people in jail. My career is based on getting justice for people who have been done wrong. I've never been a defense attorney. So me going out and doing this was to find out what happened to Nolan Wells. And in talking to these young men, the burden of proof is they're going to have to prove to me. I'm not going to listen to what they say out of their mouth. They're going to show me. And in many cases, they showed me videos of Nolan on the island. They showed me videos of the boat when they were getting towed out, which is consistent with, kind of similar to what the phone call was. I mean, they showed me pictures of them with Nolan. They showed me phone records of them calling Nolan's mom and all of the above. So they seemed very consistent. They seemed very genuine. And they also proved to me some of the things that they had told me in the interview that I had with them that I have uploaded on my YouTube channel.
Officer Tatum, are you telling me that they had reception on Horn Island? Because many people are saying, well, the reason that there's nothing on Nolan's phone of that day, like there's no pictures, there's no snaps, there's no text, there's no anything, not because it was deleted, but because he didn't have reception. But you're telling me the other boys did have snaps, photos, videos, and reception?
Yeah, no, Nancy, let me clarify this for you. It wasn't that they uploaded this online. They showed me videos and things that they took from the boat during the outing on 4th of July. I was personally out at Horn Island. I rode out there on a boat, and I didn't have great reception there. And I left my phone in the boat when I got into the water and we were actually going out to do interviews.
Objection. Objection. You've been in court long enough to know you're gonna get objections. You said you didn't have great reception, but you did have reception, did you not?
No, there was reception there. It just wasn't great, and it wasn't great enough for people, in my opinion, to upload. You can make a phone call potentially, but you wasn't gonna upload data to a social media account. Now, could people take the steps to do it. If they're dedicated enough, yes. But it doesn't appear that would have been a frequent thing, given the fact that you probably had 1 or 2 bars out there.
Hold on. Check that out. Check that out. Hold on. That contradiction is a textbook case of rhetorical goalpost shifted under pressure. Here's the breakdown of why that moment in that exchange is so revealing about him and how it directly collides with the account given by Nolan's mother. When Nancy asks if photos and videos were taken that day, Tatum jumps on it, because it supports a picture of normal, casual, documented activity. But Nancy immediately spots the logical vulnerability. If you're actively using phones to record and document an ongoing event in real time, you're establishing that phones were functional, charged, and in active use, right? It forces the question of connectivity and immediate communication that they all had. If the phones were active enough to capture media, why wasn't that line of communication used to reach out, send a message, or call when things went sideways with Nolan? Why didn't nobody use their phone? Because we all was thinking, okay, well, there ain't no communication on the island. We got a problem. No, there was communication on the They could have called home, so they could have called 911. The moment Nancy connects phone usage to cell service, Tatum realizes he stepped into some bullshit. If he admits there was cell service, it completely destroys any defense grounded in we couldn't call out or get a signal that they might say. So he instantly pivots to a distinction without a real difference. Well, they didn't upload. They were just on their phones. Why is this bullshit? He tries to retroactively reframe the devices as offline cameras rather than connecting phones. By claiming the media was stored locally rather than uploaded, he attempts to preserve two opposing ideas at once. The phones were working enough to document the day, but the phones were supposedly unavailable or useless for actual outward communication. Okay, so that's the contrast with Nolan's mother. This is where Tatum's gymnastics fall apart against the raw facts presented by Nolan's mother. Let me show you her phone call. What she said.
I don't know what she said exactly. Well, here is what Nolan's mother said.
When we opened it up, there was nothing. There were no saved pictures. There were no snaps from that day. And we did open it before the 24-hour expiration. So we found that very concerning, only because anyone who's ever been around Nolan will tell you at social gatherings, he's taking videos, he's taking pictures, he's even come up to me when I'm getting ready to go to bed, hey mom, come on, take a picture of me. You know, like he's just, that was Nolan. So that's why we feel that things may have been deleted, was because of the fact that there was nothing in either one of his accounts.
See how Tatum was kind of lying about what was going on. The moment reality hits his defensive narrative, right? Nolan's mother points to the physical facts of the timeline, signal reception in the area, frantic attempts to get in touch. Her focus is on the reality of what a mother understands about her son. A mother trying to reach her son, what her actual experience, his actual experiences were that day. Unanswered phone calls, ping data, actual coverage conditions. Tatum's explanation relies on isolated facts into a vacuum sealed bucket. Taking photos doesn't mean uploading. Nolan's mother brings it back to common fucking sense. If devices were in hand and active during those critical windows, the failure to make contact or signal for help wasn't a technical limitation. It was a choice or a glaring omission by those people on that island. By dodging Nancy's question about cell service, Tatum accidentally highlights the exact vulnerability in his argument. He can explain what was on the camera rolls, but he can't explain the silence when it mattered the most. Nancy asked a simple question. Did they have photos and videos from that day? Tatum says yes. So they had cell phone service and working phones, right? Well, they didn't upload it. They were just on their phones. He's desperately shifting the goalposts. But compare that at what Nolan's mother says, okay? Nolan's phone came back with 0 saved photos and 0 Snapchat activity, wiped clean before the 24-hour window to wipe those Snapchats clean. An actual investigator digs into why a dead boy's phone was scrubbed clean. An unauthorized commentator running interference for them tells you, don't worry about it. They just didn't upload anything. Tatum didn't investigate a fucking crime. He used his platform to smooth over red flags and compromise the public record. He's running cover for these boys. Now we get to the grandpa. Now let's look at grandpa. Let's listen to the 911 tape for grandpa.
I apologize ahead of time. I really do. You're going to have a fee for service come up under
Okay.
the ahead of time today.
Yeah, thank you.
Hold on.
This is Captain Seth.
Hold on.
This is Captain Seth.
Hi, Captain Seth. This is Vicky from International. How you doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Good, good. I apologize ahead of time. I really do. You're going to have a fee for service come up under
Okay.
it sounds like a bunch of kids on board on Horn Island. He's letting me know that his father's a member, but he can't give me any information. And he's saying the boat is sinking, and he's on Horn Island. It's just unfortunate. He's just a kid. There's a lot going on. So
Right.
he said there's about a lot of people on board. He says he thinks about 7. I'm guessing they're all under 18.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to be rude. He wants you guys to go out there and unpump the boat and then tow it in.
Do you know what kind of boat it is?
He said a Triton 24 footer, but that's all he can give me.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just actually got off the phone with his grandpa, who I'm guessing is the owner of the boat, and he.
Now, now, what's going on here? When a boat goes down and a young man disappears into the water, the emergency playbook is universal. You call 911, right? You call the Coast Guard. You scream for help. And you summon every flashing light and rescue boat in the country. You do not reroute a life or death crisis through a middleman. Yet on that night, when Nolan Wells was in that dark water on that boat or whatever, the very first instincts of those on board didn't point towards search and rescue. They pointed towards grandpa. They said, I got to call my grandpa. Hell yeah. We know they called grandpa because this man just said they called grandpa. Grandpa, I got a call from grandpa. Why exactly would you call your grandpa and then have his grandpa say some other shit? Hold on. Let's finish.
Yeah, he said.
Okay.
He said that they don't need any help right now, but if something changes, they'll call me back. So
Oh,
I'm guessing that they may have figured it out, because that's what he said. So they're in a panic and their boat won't crank.
yeah, they're in a panic. He's saying the bilge is not keeping up. I asked for Coast Guard. He said no, but he's just really upset on the back end. And, I get it. It's a kid. He just doesn't understand.
See, this is the problem I have. This is the problem I have with this whole thing. And this is why I know that those boys know more than what they're saying, and those boys know what happened to Nolan. This is how I know that. Why would you have even, for one, you called grandpa, and why would grandpa say when his grandson is sinking in the middle of the ocean with a boat, why would you tell the Coast Guard not to go get it? Why would you tell the rescue team not to go get your grandchild. And your grandchild is out there sinking in the boat. And they freaking out and they drunk. Why wouldn't you call them to have them come and get them? Why would you tell them they don't need your help? They don't need no help. They don't need no help. Why would grandpa say that? Why would you call grandpa first? Why wouldn't you call the Coast Guard first? Why wouldn't you call for help first? From the moment that first call was placed, grandpa transformed from a concerned relative into the central clearinghouse for every piece of information moving that night. Look at the timeline. Who called grandpa first? And what precise words were used to describe that situation? Why did the flow of communication collapse inward towards a family patriarch instead of expanding outward to the professional first responders? Why was he making and receiving calls to align the sequence of events before law enforcement even had boots on the ground? When homicide detectives and forensic investigators dissect the timeline, they don't look at what people say happened. They look at the hard digital metadata, timestamps, call durations, the exact sequence of ping towers. Those boys were out on that water for at least an hour just floating when they said they were taking water on. Why are you out there floating when you're taking water on? And you were going at a certain speed. That's on record. Record said you weren't going at any type of speed. You weren't going at the speed you should have been going at if you were trying to get out of the water and save yourself. If those phone lines were lit up to get stories straight and smooth out discrepancies before the blue lights pulled up, that ceases to be family support that grandpa gave them. That's running cover for something you know happened between the kids and Nolan. That's how I know grandpa got an idea.
Okay, do you still have him on the line?
Yes, I still have him on the line. And again, I couldn't find, he couldn't give me anything regarding his grandfather's, membership, so it's just under fee for service.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just talked to, if you want to, we're so tied up right now, we can't really do any non-member jobs right now.
Is member? Did you find out if he was a member or not?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's his boat or what. I'm not sure what's going on with it.
So why wouldn't he know what was going on in it? Why wouldn't he know this dude that grandpa called? Grandpa just called out the blue talking about somebody's boat. Grandpa wasn't identifying the boat. Grandpa wasn't saying nothing about the boat. What is he talking about? I don't know what's going on. What you mean? My grandson said his boat was sinking. Why didn't grandpa give them all the information that he needed to give them? Because grandpa really didn't want no record of him calling. Why would grandpa call them to get ahead of the story? That's why grandpa called. He called to get ahead of the story. Take a hard look at the priorities on display in this moment. The immediate priority wasn't organizing a grid search to find Nolan, shining spotlights on the water, or begging local authorities for more divers. The priority was to cover themselves for damage control. While Nolan was completely unaccounted for in the water, a flurry of communication was flying back and forth for the one primary purpose: to manage the fallout, to manage the damage control, to manage what happened to Nolan, so they would have cover. Consider the division of labor that night. Consider that. One man took to YouTube, effectively starting a public relations campaign in real time that retard Tatum. The other was operating the switchboard on the phone lines, grandpa, running interference and vetting the narrative before official statements were taken. Grandpa's name ain't on none of those calls, none of that stuff. When a life is on the line, every second spent managing a narrative is a second stolen from the rescue effort that could have been for Nolan. The phone records just don't show who was talking. They show who was panicking about the truth instead of searching for a missing boy. Okay? They were running cover. All of them were running cover that night. The only goofy one was the two operators that were talking right now, to the lady and the man. They didn't have no clue. Now they have a clue. Now y'all need to investigate that operator, that 911 operator lady. Okay, and then maybe she can recall some details. We never know. She needs to be investigated. She needs to be interviewed. That dude who was the Coast Guard or whoever he was, he needs to be investigated. He needs to be asked questions. Why would you get on this phone call and say, I don't know what's going on? Wait a minute, hold on. Say it again. What did he say?
I asked for Coast Guard. He said no, but he's just really upset on the back end. And, I get it. It's a kid. He just doesn't understand.
Oh, okay. Do you still have him on the line?
Yes, I still have him on the line. And again, I couldn't find, he couldn't give me anything regarding his grandfather's, membership, so it's just under fee for service.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just talked to, if you want to, we're so tied up right now. We can't really do any non-member jobs right now.
Right.
Is member? Did you find out if he was a member or not?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's his boat or what. I'm not sure what's going on with it.
He don't know what's going on with it. Why y'all call me? Why you call me if y'all don't want no tow? Why was you calling me? You didn't. That's crazy because they're covering up. They're covering up what happened to Nolan. And I'm not saying they did anything to Nolan. What I am saying is they know what happened to Nolan, right? And they're trying to cover that up. I don't know what happened to Nolan. Is that 911 tape legit? Can you believe what's on it? Can you believe what you hear? What people hear? Millions of people hear certain things. Millions of people, you can hear some of this. I can hear them calling Nolan's name clearly, which tells me they had an idea of where Nolan was. He was either in the water or he was on that boat. But they saw him in the water or they saw him on the boat. Either one. They saw Nolan. They knew where Nolan was at that particular time when they called for to panic and because the water was, they were taking water on the boat. And I almost don't even believe that. I almost don't even believe that water was being taken onto the boat. Okay, I don't believe that because they got up out of there real quick. Okay, after they decided to make that phone call, but it was an hour after they left that Horn Island. See, Brandon Tatum tried to control the public narrative on YouTube. He's a liar, and we can't believe nothing he says because he ain't never found a white person that he could ever not defend against a black person. He attacked the mother. He attacked Nolan. He attacked all that. Now he's trying to set it up so we believe some black people had something. Oh, Nolan wasn't the only black person on that island. And then he had the nerve to spout those garbage facts about, oh, black people kill black people, blah, 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 blah. So that happens all the time. And maybe these black people did something to Nolan. I don't know whether that was what he's trying to imply, but it seemed like it was. Allegedly. That's why Officer Tatum is trash when it comes to any kind of narrative when it comes to black people, because he don't have no discernment. Okay? Brandon Tatum tried to control that public narrative on YouTube. The grandfather controlled the private phone calls, the private phone lines. When the crisis broke, when they called grandpa, something happened. We don't know. That phone call that boy made was after the grandpa called the Coast Guard. The boy, grandpa said, hey, run cover. Try to run cover. Let me call the Coast Guard. And smooth the Coast Guard away. I ain't telling the Coast Guard no information, so let me smooth it away from y'all calling. If they made a mistake and called them first, let me smooth it away and tell them they don't need nobody. Two men operating in two completely different spheres, but both of them driving towards the same narrative, exact same outcome, protecting those boys on that boat before the actual evidence could arrive. Okay, that's what they tried to do. Okay, and I'm so disappointed in Officer Tatum. I really have not run across Officer Tatum very often, but this is sad. This was sad. Okay, this was sad. What we witnessed from Officer Tatum. I couldn't believe it. It's easy to stand in front of a camera or get on a phone call and paint a picture of people being innocent when nobody has seen the raw data yet. Okay. Nobody's seen the raw data. But public relations and family damage control aren't. See, I can understand if grandpa got on here and was trying to cover for the kids. That's grandpa. Grandpa's trying to cover for his grandchild. I get that. Grandpa is trying to cover for his grandchild. But you got this person, you got Officer Tatum interfering in an investigation, running false narratives, trying to convince people black people did it, trying to convince people, no, these boys didn't do it. No. That ain't how the world works with black people. Because the minute you say that person killed somebody and they black, the police automatically assume that person is guilty. Why weren't these people assumed to be guilty? All of this shit is sketchy. Oh, he drowned. Now they're trying to get the evidence to fit the fact that they said he drowned, even though there's no evidence that says he drowned. People keep thinking just because he was by water, he drowned. That's not how that works. Subpoenas don't care about Brandon Tatum's personal opinion. Server logs couldn't give a damn about voice stress tests or somebody mislabeling a polygraph. The data for the boat, the data for how long it took them to get from Horn Island, the data of the phone call. Y'all got experts. That can take those voices and separate those voices and find out what those people say. I clearly heard them say, Nolan, no. I don't know nothing about anything else on that tape. I'm not accusing those boys of anything. I'm accusing them of knowing what happened to Nolan. I'm not accusing them of murder. I'm accusing them of knowing what happened to Nolan. Okay? So deleted files leave a permanent digital footprint on center servers, whether grandpa likes it or not. Grandpa didn't want to give no information. Otherwise, that dude would have known who he was, his number, all that stuff. Grandpa gave me all the information I need. Blah, blah, blah. Why didn't grandpa give him all the information he needs so he could help those kids out? Because grandpa didn't want them to get nowhere near them kids. Okay? When an 18-year-old young man doesn't come home, you don't get to hand wave away the red flags. Nobody does. You don't get to smooth over missing pictures, wiped away Snapchat histories, and suspicious phone timeline. And then tell the world, case closed, move on. It doesn't work that way, Officer Tatum. That's a fraud. You're a fraud. That ain't just how justice works. And that ain't how a real investigation is run. So before anybody else goes on national TV to declare that these boys have been cleared, let's do what should have been done from day one. Let's wait for the facts. Where is the Mississippi toxicology report? Have they come out with the whole thing, including saying that he drowned? If that's what happened, I haven't heard anything. So why are people saying he drowned when you haven't got that evidence yet? Okay. Let's wait until every server log is pulled, every deleted image is recovered from Snapchat, every cell tower dump is analyzed, and every single phone call made that night is laid out in plain sight for everybody to see, including the toxicology report. Nolan Wells don't need a PR campaign. He don't need your help, Officer Tatum. You've bungled enough. You've bungled this investigation enough. You've tainted this investigation enough. Stay out of it. Grandpa, I can understand what you're doing. You're trying to help your grandchild. I get that. Your first instinct is to protect them, run for cover. Same thing with the Bart person. I get all of that. Nobody's accusing you of murder. What we are accusing you of is that you know what happened to Nolan, but you don't want to say it. Don't want to admit it. That's why they have a reward. Because there's people who know what happened to Nolan, and maybe one of them will talk. Because the investigation is getting closer and closer and closer. If that Mississippi pathology report, toxicology report comes back and it has drugs in its system, that's a whole nother ball game. That's a whole nother death investigation. Somebody gave him that drug and somebody helped him die. That's going to be a whole nother thing. A whole nother thing. Okay? This family don't need convenient excuses for what happened to their child. Nolan Wells deserved a complete, unvarnished, undeniable truth. And no amount of spin or cover is ever going to change that. Let the investigation play out. Let the investigation play out. Okay? Because they deserve that. And stop attacking the mother. Some of y'all goofy as hell, rude as hell, ignorant as hell. Okay? That captain, I don't know. Let me read some of these super chats. Let me read some of these chats. I got a question for some of y'all. Is there a super chat button in here somewhere? Because I don't see a super chat button. Is there a super chat button? Because I don't know. Okay, blind woman. 18 is grown. 18 is not as grown as you think they are. They still between boys and men. Okay. Don't fall for Nancy Grace. We said, don't fall for Nancy Grace's forked tongue. She's responsible for the death of 2 women over her lies. Never forget Melinda Duckett. And what does that have to do with this case? It has nothing to do with this case. And if she was charged, let me know, because I never known she was charged for any kind of murder. Because Grandpa's a veteran at these things. Yes, he is. White people are the devil. No, they're not. Come on. Good morning, Jay Walker. Good morning. Yes, it's Cold Speak. It had a whole bunch of Cold Speak. Hey, Jay Walker. Grandpa probably who knows? Who knows what's going on? All I know, don't y'all find it suspicious that when the boy was talking to the 911 operator, Grandpa had already called and already canceled any kind of service that the boy was trying to get from the Coast Guard? Don't y'all find that weird? That Grandpa was already running cover for the kids? Okay. We all heard that 911 tape. We ain't crazy. We heard that. Okay. He said, yeah. What when the dispatch tries to get it? Yes. See, that's crazy. That whole tape was wild. I think it was sacrifice. It could have been. Who knows? They say Nolan get up and check his chest. Yes. We heard what we heard. Ain't nobody gonna tell us that we didn't hear what we heard. I'm not saying none of the things that were heard by you guys. I'm just saying, for me, if I had to testify in court, I would be able to say the person said Nolan no, which tells me Nolan was on the boat. Even just those 2 words, Nolan no, tells me he was on that boat. Okay. Yeah, and that the autopsy shit is foul. They should have been done came back and been able to tell us if there was water in the lungs. They should have been able to tell us if there was water in the lungs. They should have been able to tell us if he had been strangled. They should have been able to tell us all of these things already. What about this discoloration at the back of his neck? What's that about? Okay. The young lady on the boat called Nolan's name. I don't know who that was calling his name, but I heard Nolan, no. That's what I heard. Okay. We'll be getting soon. You might want to watch what you say. I'm not getting sued. I'm just saying what I believe. I'm not saying these are facts. I've never said anything was fact. I said, to me, this is how it comes across to me. Okay. Yes. Yeah, they are getting sued. I don't know anything about Bart is suing people. I don't know nothing about that. Tatum, when Master say we sick, we sick. That's wild. What is it? Australian here, people drown every day. Yes, we know people drown every day. So see, here's the thing that y'all ain't getting. If Nolan had drowned, they would have been throwing that drowning, the lung report, the toxicology report. They would have been throwing that in our face, saying, stop saying these boys did something. He drowned. These boys didn't do nothing. They would have been throwing that in our face already if he had drowned. They would have been throwing it in our faces if he had drowned. He did not drown. That's the story they were going to go with before we jumped on their ass, before that 911 call came out. That's the story they were going to go with, because those boys are rich. They got rich grandma, grandpa, mom, dad. They ran cover. They closed ranks. They lawyered up. The minute they hit their feet was dry, they closed all their social media off. If he would have drowned, they would have threw that in our face. They would have threw it in our face. We don't believe that. Okay. Their focus is to say innocent, sick people, a human died. That's correct. That's the way I look at it. A human being died, and they trying to cover for themselves. See, and this is another thing. If he just died and he overdosed, they could have covered that. They could have covered that up. They could have said, we don't know how he died. We don't know what happened. We don't know what happened. He 1 minute he was fine, 1 minute it wasn't fine. We don't know what happened. They could have got away with that. They could have said, shit, he died on his own. But why didn't they do that? Why didn't they do that? And we know that he was on that boat. But why didn't they do that? Why didn't they say he just died because he overdosed or he drank too much or whatever? Why didn't they say that? They would have been fine. Because we would have been like, oh, okay. It came out that, okay, this is what happened. We would have said, okay. But that ain't what they did. They closed ranks as though they did something. Okay? As though they did something. That's crazy. I appreciate you, information, man, show. $4. Peace and respect. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate any super chats that you all feel the need to give to me. Please and thank you. I appreciate it. I do. What else? Maybe they panicked. Yeah, I believe that they panicked. I believe that's what happened. I believe they panicked, and now they're in even more trouble. Y'all black folks still think the devil's. Nobody thinks the devil is underground. The devil walks among us. Believe that. It's Mississippi. Mississippi aspects. Women. Mississippi. What is it? Mississippi expects these things. Oh, you expect these things to happen there? Is that normal? Is this normal procedure that they treat young men's death like that? That's crazy. You know what? My dad was born in Mississippi. My dad was born in Laurel, Mississippi. My dad told me when I was a young girl, around 16, 17, he said, don't ever go to Mississippi and live. Not as no black woman. Don't ever go to Mississippi and try to make a life there. He said, I know you might want to discover your family roots down there in Laurel, Mississippi. He said, don't ever go down there to live. My dad, they ran. Basically, they chased my dad and them out of Mississippi. My dad and his family out of Mississippi, because my dad was something else. He was the youngest, but he was the most mischievous, and they ran his ass up out of Mississippi. And they went to Chicago. They moved to Chicago, went up north. They ran my daddy out of Mississippi. Half of the 50 people will all hear different. Yeah, that's correct. They will hear different things, but they still heard what they heard. A lot of people heard what they heard. Let me see, because you just can't unhear some things. What about the life jacket? Yeah, exactly. Okay, they were still on the island when they went to tow the boat. You can see the people partying in the back. Who went to tow the boat? Did they get the boat towed from the island? Is that what happened? I didn't know that they got the boat towed from the island. I didn't know that even happened. Scary ass niggas. Massa gonna sue us. That don't even make sense, Mr. Mike Happen. Y'all look at Mike's name. Maybe Mike need to have respect for chats. We're having a nice discussion in chat, and Mike is over here talking goofy stuff. How do you know? I don't know. These are all speculations. Okay. Were they all friends with Nolan? I have no idea. You have peripheral friends, you have really good friends, and sometimes you have friends that are just be out there. You say they're friends, but they outside of your sphere, right? Okay. Nolan's parents have money. Yeah, well, I don't know whether they got money or not. I don't know. They got. Yeah, because he hung around in those circles. But then there's different levels of rich people. You have rich people, then you have people that are mid-rich, and then they hang around with some of the rich people and some of the poor people. You never know what's going on with that money-wise, right? You never know. FBI Crump, Al Sharpton, judges, how fast is spreading through the media. This is way deeper than, we understand that it's way, way deeper. I get all of that. I do. What? You are delusional. The sheriff said it appears like an accidental death. The sheriff said that on day 2, goofy, on day 2. How did the sheriff say, how did he know it's an accidental drowning? Until you see if the lungs have water in it. I said to you straight up, and you should know that because you know how to type and you know how to read. Why didn't the MS pathologist come out and say he died of drowning? She had the lungs. He had the lungs. They could have came and threw that in our face. Day 5, day 10. They could have did that. They haven't come out and said that. So it wasn't the fact that he died. The sheriff misspoke. The sheriff spoke too soon. The sheriff tried to run cover. Okay. Just because you lawyer up doesn't make it. Nobody said that just because you lawyer up, you're guilty. Nobody said that. Nobody said that at all. I'm saying it's a piece of evidence. It's another brick in the wall of things that prove that you might have some guilt attached to you. That's what that proves. Lawyering up because Nolan was on the boat. Yes. No lawyering up because Nolan would maybe on the boat. Thank you, Lilian Gonzalez, TC1GG, $20. I appreciate you. I appreciate the super chat. I appreciate all of you guys. I do. It takes several days or months for time. Yes, but they could have been done checked the lungs. They could have been done checked the lungs and found out if he had water in them. Okay, Nolan's family retained Ben Crump on July 26th, and the friends retained counsel on July 26th or July 9th. July 7th, Ben Crump came in. Yes, I get that. Yes. They should have all gone DUIs. They were underage and they were on a boat. I just don't understand. Where was the Coast Guard, but they were all drinking? Hey. My understanding is they had people coming around checking the island, or the Coast Guard or whoever checked the island periodically all the time. So why weren't those people out there watching all of those people? Why didn't they have somebody who was in the Coast Guard circling that island all day, making sure nobody drowned, making sure there was no problems? Why weren't nobody out there doing that? They knew there were going to be hundreds of people out there. Why weren't they out there? I don't know. The boat was sinking. That's what the call was about. Sure it was. That's their story. But there's no evidence that it was sinking. There's no evidence of that. Just because they said it doesn't mean it's true. Okay. I went to all main questions. Why did they leave him behind? Who knows, honey? Who knows? I don't think it was an accident either. I think they know what happened to him. Maybe they didn't do anything. Maybe they just saw it. Maybe I don't know. Okay. The sheriff is not that's correct. The sheriff is not a medical examiner. So the sheriff should not have came out there and said he drowned when it was only 2 days, the next day on that Monday. He never should have said that on that Monday. Appears don't mean fact. That's correct. Appears doesn't mean fact. Words are important. That's correct. You don't leave a friend behind for 2 days. No, you don't do that. Okay. Why lawyer up though? Yeah. Why you lawyer up? I would encourage anyone who gets arrested to lawyer up. If you can lawyer up. Okay. Without his phone, they left him without his phone. Everybody was taking pictures, snapping everything. I saw people in the water with phones. Why didn't he have his phone with him? Okay. Tried to cover it up until the internet and Crump put out. That's correct. I believe that's what happened. They tried to cover up, but Ben Crump came on the scene and then they blew that shit up without his phone. Yeah, that's correct. Unless Nolan knew how to teleport, he wasn't on the boat. He was still on. Nobody said he was on the island. Nobody said they seen him on the island. Nobody has said that. Nobody has said they seen him on the island. Why do you keep coming up with stuff that ain't even true? Nobody said they seen him after 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. Nobody said that. Who said that? Nobody. That's wild. What are you talking about? Why did they stay silent for 2 days? This stings of guilt. Yes, it stings of guilt, but we can't just say they are guilty. We can't say that. We don't know. Okay, the calls are staged and don't have nothing to do with what actually. We don't know. Maybe the first phone call, the one the young man made, maybe that was just to cover. Maybe that was to just cover. Who knows? We don't know. We don't know until all the facts come out. As far as I can understand, the Mississippi coroner has not come out with an official death. Undetermined don't make no sense. If you have the throat, if you have the lungs, if you have the mark on the back of the neck, if you have all of that, you should be able to tell us what happened to that boy. You should be able to tell us how that boy died. He just didn't puff of smoke die. Where's the toxicology report? Getting cocaine out of the system or finding cocaine in the system shouldn't be that hard. Alcohol poisoning shouldn't be that difficult. That's what I'm saying. These are simple things to find out. Drowning is simple to find out. Seeing if there's some kind of external reason why he died is another story. So we don't know any of these things. You don't know any of these things. Okay? We just have to wait till everything comes out. Watch the video on TMZ of the vote being told. Yes, nobody said the vote was not told. Nobody said that. Nobody said it wasn't told. Did they? Was it told away from Horn Island? Okay. Stayed silent for 2 days, huh? Warren called Nolan's mom. Yes, he called Nolan's mom. But that could have been covered too, hon. That could have been covered too. He could have been covering for something too. We never know. You never know. No, maybe they did do it. Yes, they have 2 witnesses after 6 p.m. seen Nolan on island. Fact. Why they ain't got no pictures of him on a? Why don't nobody got no pictures? All that island and ain't nobody got no pictures of Nolan at all? The timeline and details provided by the individuals who's on the trip have shifted, creating glare. Yes, of course. Sometimes after the body has been in water, it can be very hard to tell what happened. Not when it comes to the lungs, right? Not when it comes to whether he overdosed, right? That should be able to be determined, overdosing or drowning, right? I don't know. Why didn't the last person on the island offer Nolan a ride if he wanted to stay there? Right? He also had Nolan's phone. What are you talking? This is so many inconsistencies. Somebody knows what happened to Nolan. Nolan didn't just jump in the water and drown. Okay? Everybody's trying to be a detective in the case based on the information everybody else is saying. Y'all definitely. No, I'm not milking anything. I'm saying let the investigation play out. I want to hear from the Mississippi coroner. I want to hear from them. Tell us how he died. You should be able to do that soon enough. How did that boy die? If, like I said, if he would have drowned, they would have found that. They looked for that. That was the first thing they looked for because they wanted to rule out this death. They wanted to hurry up and get that shit out of the way of them boys on that boat. They didn't want them boys to be accused of nothing. They wanted to hurry up and prove that it was drowning, but they couldn't do that. So now they got to prove something else. They got to come out with the truth. I don't want to assume anything either. I'm not saying they did anything to him. I'm saying maybe he overdosed. Maybe he jumped in the water and drowned. Any number of things. But then my question would be, why didn't you call the police when this happened, when you found him overdosed, when you found him knocked out, or whatever? Okay? Honestly, I don't know much about this story, but remembering what it was like as a teenager, he may have been thrown out of the boat and they're scared. It could be any number of things. We don't know. But we do know from that 911 tape, something happened, right? So we don't know. We can't say we don't know. So anyway, please, guys, hit the like, share, the thumb up. If you appreciate the content, I appreciate it. And I will be back sometime, maybe tomorrow morning. Who knows? Sunday morning, I don't know. but I appreciate all of you guys showing up. I appreciate everything. I appreciate the super chats. I appreciate you guys. I definitely do. And thank you all. Thank you all.